Good evening. Welcome to the October 22nd, 2024 Board of Education meeting. This is Joseph Cillier, President of Board of Education speaking. Thank you for attending in person or through Zoom. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Due notice of today's meeting has been provided to the public and each members of the Board of Education pursuant to the requirements of law. Tina, will you please take attendance? Present.
Present. Present.
Present.
Present.
Present.
Present.
May I have a motion to accept the agenda for October 22nd, 2024 regular session as presented?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Dr. Zindan, would you like to do the recognitions?
Yes, thank you so much. So first, we wanted to recognize and welcome Julia Farelli, who drew the cover of the district calendar that you see on the screens. It's just beautiful. Every year we have students who submit, and this one was unanimously picked, and it's beautiful. So, we want to thank, where's Julia? Come on up, Julia. Yeah. And, we really want to thank you for sharing your beautiful artwork with us. And again, this was something, the administrators, they all vote for this, like who's going to be, whose work is going to be on the calendar. So we're really, really proud of you. And thank you for, submitting this. I don't know, Joe, do you guys want to get a picture with Julia? Congratulations. And I have a couple more recognitions. So last week was School Board Recognition Week, and I'd like to extend our appreciation to our Board of Education for all that you do for our students and staff and our larger community here in Garden City. And it's much more than these meetings that you attend. There's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes to ensure that we are abiding by our mission and vision of our school district, and you're championing for public education. So thank you all for what you do.
Thank you.
I also want to recognize our building principals. October is National School Principal Recognition Month, and I'd like to thank all of our principals for their hard work and leadership to support our schools, students, and staff. And we're very fortunate with our school leaders that we do have in our school districts. So thank you to Mr. Steingrubner, who's here, Mr. Samuelson, Mr. Hardigan, Ms. Hand, Dr. Viskovich, Ms. Voda, and Ms. O'Done. Thank you for your leadership. And just two other major ones that you've seen in the newspapers, but in our in terms of our outstanding achievements in particularly our high school. And again, our students, they stay here from kindergarten all the way up. So when we say the recognitions for high school really is throughout all of our buildings. So we had 9 academically talented high school seniors nominated as semifinalists for National Merit Scholarship, and they have a chance to continue in that competition. And we also had 10 Garden City High School seniors who have been recognized as commended students for after taking the PSAT exams. And that's over 34,000 students nationwide are recognized with this award for really exceptional academic promise. So congratulations to our students. We'll bring them in at some point to recognize them here at the board meeting. And one other, well, actually a couple more, if I'm I'm on a roll with these accolades. So our high school this was the second year in a row. They received the Platinum Award, which is the highest award that you could receive through the AP College Board, the high school honor roll it's called. And this is based on college readiness and the number of AP courses our students take. So this is again the highest honor. So congratulations to our students and our administrators again for having this recognition for 2 years in a row. And two other teachers that I would like to recognize. One is Ms. Katie Yoniak. She's a third grade teacher at Stewart School, who was honored on October 8th at the 4th Congressional District Teacher Award. And this award is given to teachers who make a real difference. And students actually nominate their teachers. So Ms. Yoniak, she received this. She was, of course, very surprised, but she has made a real difference here in our Garden City schools, and we're really proud of her. And then Ms. Lauren Lavelle, our technology and science staff developer, was also recognized as the Nassau County Association of School Technologists Award recipient by Nassau BOCES and the Nassau Association of School Technologies. So this is, again, two really wonderful accolades for our teachers. Okay. Yeah, those are my recognitions. We have other there's other aspects of my report, but turn it over to you.
I think at this time, we're going to go to Naraki Smith, right?
Mhm.
And have our auditors speak briefly. They hiding?
Oh, there he is.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening to the Board of Education. My name is Christopher Angata. I'm a partner at the firm Naraki Smith, and I'm with everyone this evening to present the results of the fiscal 2024 audit of the Garden City Union Free School District. Our firm was retained by the district, as I said, to perform an audit of the financial statements. Additionally, we also performed a single audit of the federal award programs administered by the district, as well as an audit of the extra classroom activity funds of the district performed on the cash basis of accounting. With respect to the conduct of the audit, I'd just like to commend the district on a timely and satisfactory closing of its books and records. Our fieldwork commenced during the summer this year, and we received excellent cooperation and attention from the district's business office. We did meet with the audit committee of the Board of Education on October 1st, where we went through the financial statements and the audit process in great detail, which allowed the district to file its financial statements by the requisite deadline of October 15th. Our firm renders 4 opinions on the district's financial statements. All were clean or unmodified, meaning that the financial statements of the district present fairly in all material respects in accordance with professional standards. Just some commentary on the financial position and activity of the district for 2024. The general fund saw a positive change in its fund balance for the fiscal year, and the general fund balance, operations reflected positively compared to the budget for the fiscal year. The general fund balance amounts were all within reasonable and legal limits. The district had about $99.5 million in capital assets, net of depreciation, which increased approximately $7.2 million from the current year. The current year capital project expenditures were about $10.5 million, relating to the various projects throughout the course of the district. During 2024, the district reduced its long-term indebtedness by about $2.6 million related to its principal payments on its debt obligations. The other post-employment benefit obligations liability on the district's full accrual financial statements, or the district-wide financial statements, total about $38 million, or increased about $38 million to about $247.9 million due to changes in actual assumptions. And the total proportionate share of the net pension liabilities related to the teachers' retirement system and the employee retirement system was about $8.2 million, down from $12.9 million in 2023. Really just due to the funded status of the plans as well as the market conditions. As part of our audit, we do contemplate issuing management letter presenting any findings or recommendations on approving the accounting procedures and internal controls of the district. I am happy to report to the board this evening that we did not cite the district for any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal controls. We had no compliance findings or questioned costs with relation to our single audit procedures, and we had no current year or prior year recommendations to offer as part of our audit procedures this year. And that really concludes my prepared comments for this evening, but I'd be happy to turn the meeting back over to the board for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Board have any questions? I know I sat in the audit committee, so, and Kristen did as well, so there's no questions from us. Appreciate the work and like to thank Mrs. DiCaprio and her staff for doing a great job this year, as usual.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you
Take
for your. Ms. DiCaprio, I guess you're doing the treasurer's report next.
Good evening. This is the treasurer's report for August 2024. We had a cash balance at the beginning of the month of 51,969,953. We had receipts in August totaling 2,613,648. We had disbursements of 4,873,133, leaving us with a closing balance of 49,710,468. Thank you.
Dr. Sinha, will you do your superintendent's report next?
Sure, thank you. I have a couple of things that I wanted to give the Board of Education update on. One is we had talked about at the last meeting to give an update on the 7th grade class size. So I have Mr. Samuelson, Dr. Fasano, and Mr. Marr here to give that update. You want to come up here?
Yeah. You need a microphone.
So, before Mr. Samuelson starts, what we wanted to give you an update based on some of the questions that were asked at the last board meeting. And, Mr. Samuelson and his team, they work very closely with the 7th grade teachers. And so he has we met with them on Friday with the entire 7th grade, the team, and then including some of our students, 7th grade students. So Mr. Samuelson will give an update on that. In addition to that, last year we had started, if you recall, we had talked about looking at middle school scheduling. So we started that process last year. If you recall, Ms. Barbera, who was here part-time, she had done some of the work with a consultant, Mr. Michael Reddick. And then Dr. Bowman has taken that over. And we've had 2 meetings so far with Michael Reddick, the consultant, talking about looking at scheduling. And that scheduling would involve, again, class sizes is one of the topics, but really looking at the schedule and if it meets the current needs of our students, now and for the future. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Mr. Samuelson.
Thank you, Dr. Sinan. Thank you to the board for allowing me to speak this evening to share some insights and updates related to class sizes, particularly in our 7th grade. I will start off by saying that I think we all do acknowledge the concerns raised by members of the community. I listened very carefully to the feedback that we got from the board and from the community members at the previous board meeting. And that feedback is obviously, it's helpful, it's pointed, and allows us to more fully understand the community's concerns. And ultimately, I'm always grateful for the feedback and the willingness to share, parents' willingness to share their thinking. We certainly agree that class size is an important factor in helping each of our students to achieve their goals. And I will say at the outset that I, and of course the district, are committed to providing quality instruction to all members of our learning community and to continue to provide a positive, safe, and engaging learning environment for all. Tonight, I'll speak a bit more into our current status, share some of the immediate plans to support our 7th grade, and I'll add a bit about our long-term planning. I'll start off by speaking a bit about our current class sizes. Currently, we have just under 400 7th graders, which is in contrast to the 6th grade, which has 323, and 8th grade, which has 315. So that's approximately a third larger. We have 26 core sections in the 7th grade that are currently running over 30 or over. Some of these class sizes are consistent with our history. Accelerated math and accelerated science tend to be larger. And the reason for that is because we've always had a philosophy that allows families and students to opt in to the accelerated classes, sometimes with the recommendation of teachers and sometimes without the recommendation of teachers, but we feel like it's important that students have the ability, especially at this age where they grow rapidly and they develop executive functioning skills rapidly. They deserve the ability to take a chance and push themselves. This year, our opt-in numbers are larger than typical. Typically, we run at about 55% students in the accelerated track. This year, we're closer to 66%, which we view as a positive thing. We like our students striving and pushing themselves. But that size of accelerated class did have an impact on our thinking and we ended up creating additional sections of accelerated math and science to accommodate that large number. In general, and by the way, certainly pause me and ask questions as I go. For reference, our 6th and 8th grade classes this year are smaller than our 7th grade classes are on average. And I know that, average class size isn't the best data point, but for your reference, this year, 6th and 8th grade classes tend to average around 27 students per class. But, and I'll say it again at the onset, we always strive to review our structures, our systems, our procedures to make certain that our students are getting the quality education to which they're entitled. And when we work on the master schedule, which we do starting in the winter and rolling through the spring, we think about a variety of variables that need to be considered. And some of those are, we think about the broader master schedule, that attention that we pay to 7th grade can't come at the expense of 6th or 8th grade. We have to assure ourselves that state mandates are met with respect to encore classes, PE, health, technology, and the like. We need to make sure that all of our classes are accessible to all of our learners. We don't want to create a system where students, based on their specific learning needs, can't access a class. And we certainly want to make certain that all of our students have access to music and art and creative learning opportunities, which for many are places that really spark joy and a love for learning. Aside from that, we think about making sure that we have access to support classes where necessary. We have a very strong MTSS process, which does throughout the year from time to time identify students who would benefit from a pull-out support class. We want to make sure those classes are accessible. And we also want to make sure that our course offerings in terms of electives are representative of student interest and voice. We offered 4 new electives this year, and we ran 3 of them because student voice responded to it. Students wanted those classes and we ran them. We wanted to make sure they were accessible. Some other things that we have to consider when developing a master schedule is teacher availability, which means certainly understanding and monitoring the teacher contract and providing additionally for productive collaborative time for teachers both on team and on department. And speaking of team, this was another consideration. When we spoke to the teachers at the end of last year and based on all the feedback that we get from families and students, the teaming model that we hold in the middle school is something that everyone seems to feel is a real positive benefit to our students. It allows students to feel nurtured, supported by a variety of teachers in different disciplines. It allows teachers to use a variety of different tier 1 interventions and share their successes with each other to help support students. It provides truly a global resource for all of our learners. And then the other thing that we considered when we looked at the large class size was the possibility of bringing on new staff. But we also had to consider the challenges that come with what would amount to being very short-term hires. So in the end, when developing the master schedule for this year, we considered a variety of models. We considered what we're calling a super team, which in short is a cluster in which the teachers teach only their core area 5 times, as opposed to 4 sections of their core and a support or elective. We considered multiple super teams. We considered doing away entirely with the team model. We talked about bringing in teachers from other buildings. Certainly the high school was happy to partner with us to help find solutions if we needed them. And each of the ideas that we talked about and we worked through, Mr. Marr diligently developed a number of different models, had positives and they had drawbacks. And ultimately what we looked to do was find a balance that held supportive and thoughtful class sizes with our desire to make sure that we could provide meaningful supports, exciting, engaging electives, and to maintain our teaming structure, which again is something that we think is really the keystone of our community of learners. But again, we take feedback from the community very seriously. And while I've received a few outreaches from families, and actually, I think I spoke with Mrs. Pappas a few weeks ago on this topic, we wanted to assure ourselves that we were getting a complete picture. And so to that end, Dr. Sinha and I met with the entire seventh grade teaching team, as well as a representative group of students from the current super team. And we learned a lot of things. And we learned, I'll share with you the big threads. Teachers shared that, like they do every year, they love their students. They are committed to doing right by them. They take great pride in their successes. They're very much attached to their learners. The teachers are committed to the team model, and they are desirous of more time to collaborate with each other and within their departments as well. And they feel the weight of the large number of papers to mark, and the large quantity of meaningful feedback to deliver. And ultimately, because they are who they are, our teachers want to make sure that they can meaningfully connect with each of their learners routinely and in a supportive fashion. Students shared a lot of interesting feedback as well. Our new seventh graders enjoy the challenge and rigor of seventh grade. They do appreciate and feel that need for connections with teachers. They would like to see less homework. Not all of them, some of them really enjoyed having the time to practice, but that was a thread. Uniformly, the students expressed their appreciation for communication strategies that teachers use to keep them updated. And specifically, they were talking about the technology in Google Classroom and things like that. And they also appreciated that the math lab offering is a popular one for our students. And they're grateful for the extra help sessions and homework club that allows them to get extra support when they need it. Reflecting on our process, I can share there were certainly opportunities where the district made available to us resources. The model that we arrived upon did not drive a need for us to access them, although it did require overages. Although even still, those overages are consistent numerically with what we typically look for. And I'll be honest, transparently, there were other options that we considered and that we didn't go with. And we understand that the choices that we made have created concerns for parents, and we want to make sure that we can address those. I will share transparently that while it's very early in the year, when we look to see how things are going, we use a variety of metrics at all times to think about how we're doing. And I'll just share a couple of interesting points with you. This year, our MTSS referrals are down by 50% from last year. Last year at this time in the school year, we had received 14 referrals. This year, we're at 6, which says to me is an indicator of successful tier 1 teaching strategies in the classroom. Our student attendance demonstrates improvement. Our disciplinary referrals are down. We will administer NWA for the remainder of this week for ELA. Next week will be math. And following that will be the DESA administration. So within the next 3 weeks, we'll have a variety of new data points that give us some insight into how things are going. I'll share that parent feedback has been positive. And, you know, Dr. Fasano, Mr. Marr, and I visit classrooms every day. And what I can tell you in 6th grade and in 7th grade and in 8th grade, our students are working hard. They're collaborating with each other. They're pushing themselves and they are growing. And I expect that when we do get our NWA data in the coming weeks, that data will support that. But again, absolutely validating the concerns in the community. We've been discussing and implementing a number of solutions. I'll share some short-term solutions and then some long-term solutions as well. So in the immediate, we've been able to bring on 3 English licensed teacher assistants, support class sizes. These are TAs who are actually licensed teachers. They happen to carry an English license. And we can use them to create breakout groups, to do small group instruction, to provide feedback, or conversely, to teach the larger group so that the classroom teacher can provide that feedback in small groups. They can partner with a teacher in any course, even though their expertise may be in English. And then we can also use them to support access for teachers to department and team meeting time. This was an area of concern for teachers. They wanted to make sure they had that time to collaborate. And the TAs are basically the key to that. We can still allow that to occur. We also, as we do every year, our teachers are constantly rethinking, reconsidering, and developing new teaching strategies. Certainly for our seventh grade teachers, in some of our larger classes, there is a value in thinking about other mechanisms that they can use. I think the TAs are fundamental to that. But we're also seeing our teachers use a variety of learning spaces in the building. The Learning Commons have never been so popular, and the library is also a place where many classes have gone to do their learning. Plus, the teachers have very strong partnerships with their curriculum coordinators, who are consistent supports and guides in helping to define and identify new teaching strategies. What I can tell you is that for the remainder of the school year, we will commit to continue to speaking to our students in both formal and informal settings, and the same with teachers, so that we can make course corrections where they may be necessary. And I'll share as a final thought on the short-term piece. As I always do, parents are encouraged to reach out to me with any questions or concerns. We try to be very responsive. And while our answers may not always be the answers parents are looking for, they're always thoughtful, and they're based on what we are all driving to do, which is support our students, help them achieve. Dr. Sinha just referenced it a moment ago, but for long-term considerations, we are knee-deep in the work with master scheduling. Thank you to Dr. Bowman and Dr. Sinha for supporting this work. We're working with Mike Reddick, who's a master scheduling guru, to review our master schedule, to identify opportunities for improvement, to make sure that any accommodations we make for next year keep class size at the forefront, and that we are able to make sure that we have access to supports for students where they may be necessary. You can be certain that we will continue to provide Dr. Sinha with updates, and in so doing, provide the board with updates as well.
Maybe you kind of hit it with the last point, but I guess I would encourage you to provide updates as you're going through and doing your examinations. And if you see any trends that are suboptimal or deteriorating with, obviously Dr. Sinha, I'm sure you'll be aware, but if you make the board aware, and if you need more resources, that you obviously flag it early. Appreciate you coming and speaking on the topic. Obviously it was concern of the community, concern of the board. So obviously the data will speak for itself as you're reviewing it. It seems so far it's going well, but if you see any material changes, please don't hesitate to highlight the Dr. Sinha on the board.
You can be certain that I will.
Mr. Samuelson, thank you very much for providing a very detailed overview of how, all the thinking that went into the planning for this year. And this is something that we've spoken about, and I appreciate you taking the time to meet with other members of the community around this issue. It is something that I am concerned about. I feel like class size, as an educator myself, I feel that class size is extremely important for in a smaller class size allows a teacher to really give that attention that they need to their students. And I guess my impression is that our classes seem overall large. So the trend, something that I've noticed from the data is that since 21-22, we had 0 classes at or above 30, and then 22-23 was 14, then 23-24 is 30, and then 24-25 is 42. So we're definitely trending in a direction where the number of sections that are at or above 30 is increasing over the years. So I would just appreciate, like you had mentioned, that we're going to keep a close eye on this. And I think that we need to do what we need to do, whatever that might be, so that we can make those classes smaller than at or above 30 and change that trajectory. Is there anything short of adding additional staff that would solve this problem for the 7th grade cohort moving into 8th grade?
Are you talking about for the rest of this school year or for
No,
next year?
not for this school year, but in preparation for next year. I mean, in my
So-
opinion, I know that adding additional staff is seen as a short-term solution, but when I look at the classes, they seem overall large. So even if they're not at or above 30, when I'm looking at the other sections, they're 29 or 28. So my feeling is the addition of additional staff, I'm wondering if they still could be useful within the building to keeping those other classes smaller. So I guess I don't see them as such a short-term solution.
So our work with the master schedule for next year is going to be really focused on a number of things, but the big one is going to be making sure the class sizes are more manageable.
Okay,
And so what I know is that if it comes to a time where we need to have a conversation about additional staff, I feel very comfortable reaching out to Dr. Sanan, Ms. McLaughlin to have that conversation. At this time, I would like to see where the master scheduling process goes. We will complete that process before we need to finalize staffing so that we will have the opportunity if that process yields an outcome where we need to have that conversation. I'm very comfortable and easy reaching out to Dr. Sanan on that topic.
so there is the possibility that work with that scheduling consultant could decrease class size in and of itself, possibly without the additional staff, but there could be the possibility of needing additional staff. You'll find that out in your work with the consultant.
Yes, so both of those are possibilities. One possibility is that we do a new master schedule that does not require the addition of new staff and which accomplishes the goal of decreasing class sizes. The other possibility is that we review our master schedule and identify that we need to consider new staffing, in which case I have no concerns about reaching out to Dr. Sinha.
Wonderful, thank you, Mr. Skimes.
If I could just address that also is, as we get into this process, there's a timeline for the process to be completed by. And if there's additional staffing needed, that's part of our budgetary conversation that we'll have in, with the board and in public when we discuss staffing for the middle school.
Any other question?
Just lost me, sorry. Thanks, Matt. And I hope, and I appreciate that you feel comfortable coming to us for more personnel, but I just want to reiterate, everybody should feel comfortable coming to us for more personnel. If that's the only issue, if that's the only way to solve this problem next year, please come to us.
Thank you.
No further questions. Thank you, Mr. Samuelson.
Certainly.
Okay, I also wanted to provide an update to the board regarding, one of the things that have been asked about is the occupational therapy and the physical therapy supports for our school. So we do have our interim director of PPS, Ms. Barbara Nelson, and our assistant director of PPS, Ms. Vivona here, that if you can provide an update, that would be great around the staffing for OT, particularly in PT. Do you want to come up here? And as you're giving that update, if it would be great if you can also provide an update with a short update on the Special Education Advisory Committee with the communication plan with the website.
Sure. So with regards to the OT and the PT, we are currently finalizing our numbers with regards to students who had missed services, reaching out to individual families to ensure that those who would like those services made up are made up. We're being very creative in our planning. We've reached out to alternate agencies that really are working with us to provide those services, whether they be during the school day and or after school, as well as alternate sites. So really brainstorming and problem solving, trying to get all those services made up. We've made up quite a great deal of them. I think currently right now, our services are about half of what we missed, if not a little bit less overall that we need to make up continually.
How about with the staffing? Are we fully staffed at this time?
Yes, so right now we are completely staffed. All of our buildings are covered in order to ensure that all mandated services for this school year will be given as per individual IEPs.
And, there was another question because last year I had presented with, the board with a plan for looking at, because currently all of our services are through agencies, and to see how we can move forward with having in-district personnel to provide the services, particularly for continuity. And that plan that we had shared with you, we're moving forward with that. And there's, different layers to that because it has to be, we're working with our Teachers Association closely to get that going. Ms. McLaughlin and Ms. Vavona, they're working towards that. And we're hoping to get that to you, hopefully in December at some point. Okay. And do you want to also talk about the special education advisory? Because you've done quite a bit of work in
Oh,
that
sure,
area.
Sure. So we've updated the website to really include a lot of the. Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Sorry. Can you hear me now? Okay. We've revamped the website to include a lot of the information that came out of that advisory committee. Specifically, we've created some information that's very accessible to parents to really talk about the CSE process, how to gain information. There's a Q&A for each of the different phases that we talked about during that advisory committee. Within that, we've also included resources. We're going to be building bigger and better. So when you do click on, the special ed is right on the website now. There's an immediate link. And then through there will be what's called buttons that then you can access all of this information. We'll also be following up with a meet and greet in November. I don't remember the date offhand, but we will have a meet and greet where we can have conversation really from parents, really open dialogue, kind of start that conversation being new here. I know some names, I know some faces, but really getting to know them. So it'll be a really great opportunity for myself and Ms. Nelson to get to know everybody. So look out for that and we'll definitely post it and get it out on Parent Square as well.
Do you have any questions regarding the OTPT? Thank you, Ms. Vavona. Also, I'll continue with my update,
Yes,
Mr.
please.
Celia. Okay. So one other area that I wanted to talk about and wanted to show you a little clip, our district, we were accepted in the League of Innovative Schools, which is a national network of really forward-thinking school districts. And there are about 150 school districts across 34 states. And so there were a couple of other districts from Long Island that were accepted this year. So this affords us the opportunity to collaborate with, outside of just Long Island or New York State and looking at best practices and things that we can bring back to our district. And again, this membership, again, it'll give us the opportunity to take our district to the next level, hopefully, amongst other things that we're doing. And, Mr. DeVola, Mike DeVola, who is our technology staff developer, he created this video for the application process, which I wanted you to take a look at. It's a very short video. If we can start that.
That innovation is to unlock the full potential of every student. Our mission is to create a learning environment that not only prepares students for the challenges of today, but also equips them with the skills they need to thrive in the rapidly evolving landscape of the 21st century.
At Garden City School District, we believe that innovation is the key to unlocking the full potential of every student. Our mission is to create a learning environment that not only prepares students for the challenges of today, but also equips them with the skills they need to thrive in the rapidly evolving landscape of the 21st century. Students are not simply passively absorbing information, they are actively engaged in their own learning journey. Through the integration of cutting-edge tools like artificial intelligence, adaptive software, and micro-credentials, we empower our students to take ownership of their education. They are developing the critical thinking, problem-solving, and creative skills that will serve them well beyond the walls of our schools. Innovation is woven into the fabric of everything we do at Garden City. Our teachers are not just educators. They are facilitators, mentors, and guides. They leverage the power of technology to personalize instruction
district, we believe that innovation is the key to classrooms. You'll find flexible learning spaces that encourage collaboration, experimentation, and exploration. But our commitment to innovation extends far beyond the classroom. We recognize that true transformation requires a community-wide effort. That's why we partner closely with local organizations, businesses, and families to bridge the digital divide and ensure that every student
At
has
Garden
access
City
to
School
resources
Educators,
to support their
they are
needs.
facilitators,
At Garden City School District, we're not just educating for today, we're innovating for tomorrow. We are reimagining what's possible and creating a future in which every student has the opportunity to reach their full potential. So I invite you to join us on this journey of innovation and discovery. Together, we can create a world
meeting
in
each
which
student
every
where they are and helping them to grow at their own pace. In our classrooms, you'll find flexible learning spaces that encourage collaboration, experimentation, and exploration. But our commitment to innovation extends far beyond the classroom. We recognize that true transformation requires a community-wide effort.
So we'll,
That's why
keep
we partner
providing
closely
updates
with
to the
local
board
organizations.
regarding this membership that we have into the League of Innovative Schools throughout the year. And just a couple more updates. We had the One District, One Book, book discussion last week. We had about 44 parents that joined us. And again, it was a lively discussion. We'll have one more, and then we're looking at bringing that conversation here with the board also regarding just the use of technology within our buildings. And I think it'll be, we had a student that participated, one of our senior students, Alicia Zhang. She was unbelievable, she spoke with such poise and so mature, and she gave a lot of good advice to our parents. And we have, I actually sent out a letter to our families. It'll be up on our website. I encourage all of us to use some of the advice that she gave us on how to turn off notifications and how to use the black mode. I think, Ms. McLaughlin, you've already done that. 'Cause remember you saying that? But anyway, it's been a lively discussion for us. And the other item is that we had the literacy committee that met, and I know we had, Ms. Pappas, you were on the committee, Dr. Bowman, you had helped, our co-facilitators run that committee meeting. So I don't know if you wanted to say anything about that.
Yes, I did have the opportunity to attend the literacy committee meeting, and I just wanted to commend Alice Bowman and Lauren McGuire and Carrie Hand for organizing. It was really great to see such a large group of parents, administrators, and teachers that are all engaged in the conversation. And I also think it was wonderful that anyone who had wanted to participate was invited to attend. So it was very well organized. We had time to meet inside of small groups. And then I thought what was also really helpful was learning a little bit more about what resources have been brought into the classrooms already to support some of the work, like the decodable libraries, the Haggerty curriculum to build students' phonological awareness, and then some changes to our assessment suite, like running records. We're replacing the Fontes and Pinnell running records with some decodable running records at those very early levels. So it was great. It was wonderful to see such a large group, and it's obviously something that our community really cares deeply about. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Dr. Bowman, do you want to add anything to it?
I'll echo something that I've said in the past, which is that as I gain more and more depth of knowledge of what happens in Garden City schools, the more and more impressed I am. And I think you hit a lot of the nails on the head when you talk about the specific things that are going on in response to what we're learning about how kids learn how to read and literacy. I also was equally impressed by the number of folks who were able to be participants, but not only there, active participants who really brought their desire to learn more and to be partners with the district. I'm eager to see what our next meeting is going to bring because we gave everybody homework. That was pushed out through Google Docs so that everybody's going to have a chance to really look at the literacy briefs that were published by New York State last January, so that we have a shared understanding of what they have in them and what the expectations around literacy are for our students.
Thank
Also, oh, sorry, just a quick suggestion too. I don't know, in anticipation of the next meeting, I wonder if it might be helpful to send to the participants like something they thought was like like something they thought went really well, and then maybe if they had a suggestion for some like other information that they wanted to explore, like as a committee, that might be
Sure.
really nice
Absolutely.
to gather some of that feedback too.
Absolutely. We have a scheduled reminder for everyone to complete their homework.
Yes.
And so we'll include something like that in that.
Very
Mhm.
two questions, like what you really like enjoyed and what went well, and then like what more would you like to learn about or explore?
Absolutely.
And then just some other items that I had was really on the agenda. We do have one of our teacher aides from the high school. She'll be leaving us after 10 years. And, we want to thank her for her service here in our district. You also have the external auditors report on the agenda. There's some special education agreements, and then there's some several donations. The Garden City Friends of Music is donating a step and repeat for the high school, as well as 8 sessions of music therapy at Stratford. And they're also donating funds to purchase some musical instruments at the primary schools. And then we also have, you'll see on the agenda, we're accepting donation for a bench to be placed at Homestead in memory of Miss Christine Kenny, who we lost last year. That'll be at Homestead.
Thank you for all the updates from the board. I guess just a couple of, maybe backing up a couple items on the PTOT. I know we spent a fair amount of time talking about this. There's a shortage, just to frame it for everybody and myself again, there's a shortage. It's not necessarily a money issue, it's more of a staffing issue, because I know at least the board is kind of pushed on, is this something that can be solved with spending more dollars or offering more dollars, but it's really kind of it sounds like a little bit of a shortage coupled with an offset of people no longer really like to go on staff full time just because it's either more flexible for their lifestyle, or working with these agencies provides them something that maybe working full time doesn't.
I mean, that, in fact, it was something we had discussed at, we had 2 occupational therapists that started in the beginning of the school year. The schedules weren't what they wanted, which was they wanted a specific schedule that weren't going to meet the needs of our students. So there is a shortage. And actually, you mentioned this. They had the NYSBA conference in the city. So I participated virtually, and they talked about school staffing shortage. And they were talking about 52% of schools are understaffed in healthcare related positions. And these are things like school nurses, and that we are still looking for school nurses because we have 2 school nurses because we have agency nurses. It's, speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, and psychologists also. So that there is a shortage, and it's unfortunate because, for our neediest students, that continuity is so important. And because of the shortages, the occupational therapists, there's a high demand, and they're going where it suits their schedule. So I think this whole notion last year, what we talked about, if we bring our folks internally and there's more investment because they're part of a school system and they're getting other benefits, that we're hoping that that's going to be better for us.
Thank you. I know Trustee Janeco, we've talked about this. I mean, you experience this. It seems like the state in general is, I remember you quoting some stats. I don't want to bungle them, but it doesn't seem like the city has enough. There's not enough people in PT and OT in the state to cover the city, let alone kind of the surrounding districts.
So first, Albany is changing the certification process. So the OTs are going to have to be basically licensed doctors. That increase is happening, I believe, in 26 or 27. speaking with the citywide director of related services, she had shared that if she was to take every OT in the state, and this was 2 years ago, if she was to take every OT in the state, doesn't matter what setting, she wouldn't be able to service all of the kids in the DOE. That's a pretty staggering fact. And this is what we're up against. So this, as much as we're working in partnership, we're trying to create a situation where people, I think, as Dr. Sinha said, to make them part of a community here, to really entice them, because I can tell you, I spend the better part of my day dealing with this every single day. And it's not good.
Maybe just picking up on one thing we didn't talk about, but I know it's out there and we as a board have talked about with you, the recent regionalization, I don't know if you want to call it mandate or emergency regulation, whatever it is. I think it's a requirement that they're trying to couch as something that will be good for the district. I think our preliminary view is it won't be good for the district. And, you know, I'll speak for the board unless anybody wants to disagree, which I don't think you do, that it seems like the first step in the state trying to figure a way to pool assets across school districts and use resources that would, I think, be to the detriment of our school district. So we're working with Gersio and Gersio to write a letter. Dr. Sinha is in communication with the appropriate folks across, I think, both NISBA and other relevant state agencies to kind of communicate, you know, our concerns around the questions being asked and trying to figure out what the ultimate goal is. But I did want to flag that. I don't know if you want to add anything on that or not, but.
It is, you know, extensive work that the district is required to put together to give to the state. And, you know, it was sort of thrust upon us in a very quick way to get this done. And the understanding of it is still, I think people are still struggling and grappling with it. So we have shared concerns with appropriate authorities, and we'll keep the board apprised. And, you know, Doug Spencer, he is working on a letter on behalf of the board.
Yeah.
People start kind of running away with this idea of regionalization. Regionalization is not reorganization, and nothing can happen without the community voting on it and NICET approving it. And so while there may be talk of pooling, I don't think anyone knows yet, but at the end of the day, nothing actually can happen in terms of money because all this is legislated. And you can't force people to cross school districts without a lot of bumpers that have been put in place.
There is pardon me, there is an informational webinar taking place next Tuesday. Virtually, Kristen and I are going to attend, and we'll report what we heard from the meeting. But I can tell you that this is definitely, I know people on boards, and this is definite talk.
Are there any other, anything else from any other members of the board? No other items this time? The administration? No. At this time, it's open for citizens' questions and comments. So if you could come forward, name and address, and feel free to ask your question.
It's Rich Correo, Meadbrook Road. How you doing, John? So the OTPT, just a hypothetical, if we wanted to hire somebody staff-wise tomorrow, could we do it?
Can I answer that? No, not tomorrow. What I had shared with the board earlier is we're hoping to have an agreement in place by, I would say, roughly December. And then after that, we would be able to.
An agreement, meaning,
There's an employment, a process of going through collective bargaining and going through that whole process. So that's where we are at this time.
so when I had asked you this several times, I never received that answer. And to me, that's a problem, just right off the bat. So first, there would have to be a collective bargaining contractual unit created, correct?
It would be within a unit.
Right, so that's not in place yet. And your timeline to maybe put that in place is around December?
It will be in place by then.
Okay, and then from there, is there any thought as to a timeline in trying to attract and retain the talent, actually start interviewing people? Because what some of us are hearing is that people are being hired. I understand there's a shortage. It's a statewide problem. You know, we could talk about the issues and the excuses, but there are, from what I understand, people being hired at the district level. And I don't know what's going into that equation. I would guess it's some combination of money and benefits, like, you know, anything else. So, you know, the question to me becomes, what are we doing to retain that type of talent, regardless of some of the externalities that you mentioned? And, you know, when I come to the board and when I come to you, Dr. Sinha, and I have to ask you 3 or 4 times, I don't get a straight answer. You have to understand how frustrating that becomes. I appreciate what you're saying tonight, so thank you for that. And we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mary Beth. I'm a proud parent of 4 school-age girls ranging from ages 14 to 7. I wanted to take this opportunity tonight to speak to the Garden City community as a whole. Before I begin, I would like to thank the Board of Ed for their recent written correspondence and Dr. Sinha and the new Assistant Director of PPS, Ms. Vivona, for taking the time out of their busy schedule to meet with me a couple weeks ago in person. I also thank you for your patience in advance, as this evening I will be discussing a few topics of importance to many of us here in Garden City. First topic is special education. As I mentioned, I'm the mother of 4 children, one of whom was very sick as a baby, went undiagnosed with celiac disease for many, many months until Cohen's Hospital picked it up as one of their earliest cases they had ever seen. And it caused major complications in her development, which led to the need for services since she was young. It has been a journey, and I continue to learn and grow as a student of the special ed world, as a mom and a parent of a child with special needs. With a finance and Wall Street background, like many in this community, and ultimately a career change into a math and business general education teacher, at first I knew very little regarding the ins and outs and special ed. These were uncharted waters for me, and the unknown was quite overwhelming at times. What would I face as a special ed parent? On occasion, it was all very consuming, and sometimes still is. My daughter is now 12 and is a student in the district. EI, CPSE, CSE, testing, IEPs, modifications, accommodations, all these words became part of my world. Earlier this month, when I sat across the table from Dr. Sinha, part of the message I strongly expressed to her was that my experience as a special ed mom early in the process did not feel partnered with the district in the way that I had hoped from the administrative level. My knowledge and education of special education came from friends, neighbors, colleagues. The admin in the district did not feel like a partner in my voyage. Rather, they felt like the opposition. It felt like a fight, being prepared and having to know my rights as a parent and advocate, being ready to lawyer up or drop names like CEQA, the Special Education Quality Assurance Program in the state of New York, for people to really listen. I was baffled as to why it felt like the people at the admin table weren't on my side, fighting for my daughter alongside me. Luckily, once we entered at the building level, it was different. My daughter had superheroes alongside her in the school buildings. Mrs. Elizabeth Wills, Mrs. Kimberly Babjack are literally angels sent from God. Currently, Mrs. Deborah Stone and Miss Joelle Alessi Scabelli have been great additions to her village. Her amazing teams, including teachers and service providers, and her former principal, Mrs. Hand, are amazing people and treat my daughter like family. Her team at Stewart were also a huge help to me and continue to be part of my village. Recently, however, there was a hiccup. After a long, very long and thorough CSE meeting in the spring, somehow my daughter's IEP was out of compliance in 3 areas at the start of the school year within the first week. Was it miscommunication from the top down? Was it human clerical error? Or were there holes in the transition process? Between the lack of a complete extended summer program for my daughter and the start of the school year being a bit off the mark under the prior head of PPS, Janine Velez, I just wasn't super impressed. Once again, building level personnel jumped in, team members stepped up, held an emergency meeting with me, and helped my daughter get her schedule and IEP back in line. One might ask, why am I even sharing this story on record to the community? I'm not 100% in the know of all things related to special ed, but I consider myself pretty informed. But what if I wasn't coached by friends and colleagues? What if I didn't know what questions to ask? What if I wasn't an outgoing person who felt comfortable enough to share my story? Then what? Where would I be today with my village of people? Where would I be today without my village of people who helped me along the way? Where would my daughter be? At that moment, I said to myself, if things can slip through the cracks for a child with an informed parent, what might it look like for a parent not so much in the know? With new personnel in PPS, they're here tonight, this is the perfect time for a call to action, a new beginning. I just felt like I needed to speak up, have a meeting. Maybe I can help a fellow member of the community if I share my story. I thought to myself, we have to do better. We have to be better. We're Garden City, the place where the trees that line up on Stewart and Stratford Avenues and by the high school currently look like they're straight out of a painting. We are Garden City, the place where people move into town for a sense of community, great education, great curriculars like athletics, the arts, and music. We are Garden City strong, so why can we also be great at special ed? Dr. Sinha has discussed at our meeting on October 10th. I look forward to great changes ahead in PPS, and I believe culture and positive change begins at the top with you as our leader and superintendent. My fellow Garden City community members, this new PPS personnel team at the admin level have assured me that special education is now a priority of the district, that they will be a partner in your child's journey and hold your hand and assist you in the learning process. Let's please welcome this new PPS team and hold them accountable for improvement in special ed. Classroom sizes are large. COVID has had a large impact on our student body. Teachers need more resources. Perhaps they need additional training. Parents need to be educated and in the know. The new and improved section on the special ed district website is a great start. It looks really good, actually. I looked today. It's a fabulous tool, but we all know that not all parents can learn this detailed and important information from reading it online. They cannot be 100% left alone. I'm excited for this new change at the admin level, and I encourage parents to take PPS up on their offer to be a partner. The words partner and teamwork are a lot more attractive, effective, and positive than the words battle and fight. There's a spectrum in special ed. It ranges from the kid who needs reading support. It's the very bright child with dyslexia. It's the fantastic athlete with ADHD or a processing disorder that without the help of his or her teammates and coaching staff, their disability makes it difficult for them to learn the offense. It's the AP level kid who is intelligent and hardworking, but just needs a bit of support along the way. And it's the nonverbal autistic child in the small classroom. Each and every example of special ed is individualized. And each and every child in this community deserves our best. Let's work together so that one day, very soon, this town can be known on the map for how strong our special ed program is, along with our athletics and beautiful aesthetics. Let's establish consistency and end the revolving door in the PPS department. Let's continue to fight for the children that can't fight for themselves. On topic number 2 tonight, I represent many friends and community members, and you spoke about it, the regionalization. I don't have the lawyer background and the legality expertise, but what I would like to stress is the idea of the emergency regulation. When New York State says that they need prompt action based on this emergency status. So I look forward to continuing that communication with the board and the community and Dr. Sinha on the regionalization. Lastly, but of great importance, is the topic of Proposition 1. Proposition 1, if passed, can open the door for men to use women's bathrooms and locker rooms, strip away parental rights, and cripple the progress women have made on and off the playing field, setting women and girls back decades. Title IX was passed in 1972, and the language in this proposition seems to contrary to the purpose of this law. If you are allowing biological males to play in female sports based on gender identity, you are discriminating against females. On October 11, 2024, the New York State Public High School Athletic Association Executive Director sent a letter to the member sections, including our Section 8, to ensure that the members are placing students on interscholastic teams that most appropriately align with the students' gender identity. As a former collegiate Division I athlete on full scholarship and current female coach and trainer, I find this to be discriminatory to female athletes of all levels, and I also believe it to be dangerous, as the physicality of the biological male is certainly different to that of the biological female. I hope as a community with a history rich in sports, we will protect our female athletes. Without opportunity in sports, specifically in the game of basketball, and the opportunity of scholarship, I would not be the person I am today. Thank you for your time and attention, board.
Thank you. Nicholas Regano. So I want to talk about regionalization. And by the way, anything I say today is my opinion and no one else's, just to be clear. Trustee Gaffney, respectfully, I do not agree with what you said. And I do think this is a massive issue. I think by quelling public concern is not the way to go here. I deal with administrative agencies all the time. I came up with this quote law, whatever you want to call it, the law of bureaucratic momentum. It is real. Once it goes down the tracks, very hard to stop. Now is the time to stop it. It's not later. So what is regionalization? I just want to be clear for the community. I know the board knows this very well. I know the board's doing a great job in dealing with the state on it. But for the community's purposes, what is it? So first off, the state says it's based on equitable education, pooling resources in there as well. But they are talking about equitable education. The way the school system works is you have the Department of Education, and then you have various BOCES throughout the state. The BOCES are supervisory districts for certain school districts. Nassau County's BOCES is the largest, I believe, in the state, overseeing 56 Nassau County school districts. The plan, the regionalization plan, calls for each BOCES, each separate BOCES throughout the state, to submit a regionalization plan to the New York State Commissioner of Education to facilitate equitable education. What that means is the Nassau County BOCES, who's in charge of 56 Nassau County school districts, is going to submit one plan to the Commissioner of Education in New York State. The Commissioner then, without any disclosed criteria and in her own discretion, is then going to determine whether that a plan is approvable or not. We don't know what she's going to consider. We don't know what's going to be in the plan, but we are where we are today. We could only assume that that plan will be the worst. What could that worst be? 56 Nassau County school districts will, to some degree, be consolidated, including Garden City. Are there protections against that in the law? Sure. Do they know we're going to comply with that? No, because they're going forward with this anyway. We need to attack this now. This must be fought. I understand the board is preparing a letter. Many other school districts on Long Island are doing the same. Others are preparing to fight. Fighting is necessary. As I said, waiting is not to figure out what they're going to do is not the answer. You wait, you lose. That's how it works with administrative agencies. Under the law, Article 78 is how you attack regulations. Article 78 has a statute of limitations of only 120 days from the date a regulation is promulgated. This is expected to be finally promulgated in January. That gives you until approximately May to sue. So we need to get ready. This needs to happen now, not later. The rulemaking, I can tell you, violates many, many laws in New York State. There is an avenue to sue. First off, the Department of Education is an administrative agency. They're not the New York State Legislature. They do not have the authority or the right to make policy decisions in New York State. Policy decisions in New York State are made by the New York State Legislature. That is who needs to do this. The reason that is because the Department of Education has the obligation to set the educational system in New York State. Doesn't have any obligation or right or power to set economics or communities or infrastructure or public services. All of that could be affected by regionalization plans, of course, if school district lines are drawn. Schools are the pillars of communities. School district lines, property values, et cetera. They're all tied to schools. We all know Garden City is what it is because we have wonderful schools, right? You blur those school district lines, maybe our community changes. I'm not willing to stand by and figure out whether that's going to happen or not. So I would strongly suggest this board does everything, and I commend you. I know many of you personally as friends. I've spoken with many of you individually. I commend you for what you're doing. Do as much as you possibly can. Do not stand down. Do not wait. Please, I'm begging you. In addition, I'd just like to mention, I think Mary Beth Kane just spoke about Proposition 1. I completely agree with what she said. And I'll take it a step further. And for some reason, this has kind of gone under the radar. In August of 2024, the United States Supreme Court unanimously, how rare is that? Unanimously affirmed a lower court's preliminary injunction that said allowing biological males to play in female sports is contrary to Title IX. Okay? The United States Supreme Court said that. Not only did they stop there, they said it is contrary to Title IX to allow biological males to enter girls' bathrooms or use girls' locker rooms. Not only did they stop there, they said that it is a violation of freedom of speech for a school district to require school personnel to use preferred pronouns, violation of freedom of speech. That was all unanimously affirmed by the Supreme Court. Proposition 1, even if it is passed, cannot override Title IX. And by doing anything contrary to Title IX, it subjects you to 3 problems. Number 1, it subjects you to a lawsuit under Title IX for any biological female who is discriminated against by competing against a biological boy, or in a girl's bathroom. Number 2, the most problematic of the 3, is you could have massive liability if a girl gets injured on a sports field, or God forbid, even worse, in a locker room. We all know how that can happen. Finally, the last issue is if you violate Title IX by doing any of these things, you are subject to losing Title IX funding. So dovetailing on what Mary Beth said before, I strongly, would suggest the board looks at all those issues. I'm not sure if that's been looked at yet, but very important stuff. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all you're doing. Have a good night.
Hi, my name is Nora Della Camera, 1 Sunset Lane. I wanted to thank Mary for saying what she said about special ed and about all the stuff that they're talking about. I agree with what they're saying, but I also wanted to bring up a couple of things I'm concerned about. One of which is I wanted to thank you all for letting me be part of the literacy committee. I don't have something prepared to say. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but I have to say what I have to say about it. I am concerned that the science of reading and how it's being implemented in the school is inconsistent with New York State's briefs, New York State science of reading definition, and what they intend, what the spirit of it is. Going through all the slides, being part of the New York State Department of Ed Dyslexia Task Force, being involved in different meetings, and having an inside view of everything, and also looking at the new legislation that goes into effect by September 2025 that Kathy Hochul passed, that's going to require K-3 to use structured literacy. We don't have that. If we're going to do decodable books through level D, that's going to take us through barely all of kindergarten. And so we're still using TC, F&P, and running records based on guessing. So guessing with picture clues and context clues when we're doing a running record after level D, because you have multisyllabic words are not being taught with the phonics, scope, and sequence from foundations at that point. When you look at foundation, scope, and sequence, grade 2 is when they start really getting into all the multisyllabic words, but we know we see them in level E, F, and going forward mixed in. The reason I know all this is because my son is dyslexic. He was diagnosed with dyslexia in 1st grade. He had a very difficult time learning how to read at grade level and write at grade level. I was actually told by the special ed department that my son would never read at grade level or write at grade level, that I'd lofty goals if I thought he would. Well, lo and behold, he did learn to read at grade level. He writes at grade level, and he's in accelerated classes right now and doing quite well. I have to commend the middle schools doing very, very well. Math and science is superb. In the school, very strong. Social studies, very strong. The only area that I think is a problem is really the ELA, because I think I heard that now TC is in the middle school with ELA, and I think it's really created an issue with meeting the standards. When you look at the next generation standards for ELA, I don't see how they're being met with what is going on in the classroom. I don't see more morphology being taught, syntax, root words, affixes, and things that are in the actual next gen standards. And that's concerning because they need to meet those standards and learn them proficiently in order to be college ready and to be prepared for high school properly. So that's just the only area. And I just hope that we can get maybe some professional development in for science of reading, somebody credentialed in it already who's trained in it, maybe to speak about it a little bit more, because I'm not sure that the literacy leaders have actual credentials in that type of instruction. And New York State also has a path forward now where they're going to be credentialing teachers based on science of reading. They're changing all of it and the testing to for licensure for teachers. So it's not going to be based on balanced literacy anymore. They really don't want that used. And that's what we have in the classrooms. So that's, concerning, because that's going to flow into the middle school. It's also going to take up resources for special ed, resources for reading supports, and things that can be mitigated in the younger grades and save the school a lot of money and a lot of time, because we're taking resources away from kids that may really need it more, especially if it's a teaching difference. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Corinne Slevin, 167 Rockaway. I'm gonna kind of coincidentally piggyback off of that. And I just wanted to say, I appreciate that we've made the switch to decodables for running records at levels A to D for the 3 benchmarks in the school year, but I remain concerned that we are still using F&P BAS for first grade, which is a critical year for learning to read. If you aren't a strong reader by the end of first grade, you will have a hard time ever catching up. The class zooms ahead. The struggling kid is kind of left behind. I am looking for the district to do better in their reading assessments, to assess oral reading fluency, nonsense words, real word reading, correct words per minute need to happen along with comprehension. I would like the district to consider investigating and sharing data on perhaps the STAR, the MAP, to look at comprehension or Acadience for our assessments for all our learners. There are not enough decodables currently in our primary schools. If we take a look at a phonemic lesson that the kids are doing during the day and you want to focus on what they learn during the day, it would be helpful to be able to send home that specific decodable to repeat the lesson. And the teachers don't have enough of those decodables currently. I've been told for the last 2 years that they're coming and they've gotten some, and they've talked about it at the literacy meeting. There are more, but there's not enough. I'd like to use the data that they could get from better structured assessments to drive small group instruction so that they could focus and aid the teachers to use the knowledge from Hegarty, from Foundations for Tier 1, so that it doesn't become a Tier 2, Tier 3 problem. The teachers need guidance and mentorship on how to do this and integrate the science of reading and move away from balanced literacy. But to do that, it takes time. Obviously, you can't just implement a curriculum and then expect the teachers to know how to do it. But that's at the detriment of the years of the kids as the teachers are figuring it out. So I'm just hoping that you can partner with us as parents to move forwards in a more structured literacy teaching based method using research assessments and literacy teaching programs so that we can catch these kids now and give them the help so that it doesn't trickle into the elementary school and the middle school. Thank you so much.
Hello, good evening. Erica Balkema. I live on St. Paul's Crescent, and I just wanted to discuss bus issues with you, not related to the email that you sent out. I know that there's a shortage of bus drivers. This is a little bit more of a specific issue. Specifically, my daughter is on bus 33 at Hemlock. We live on St. Paul's Crescent, so we're one of the smaller areas that are Hemlock Stratford, even though we are geographically closer to Homestead. And I have a daughter at Hemlock and a son at Stratford. So it makes it a little bit challenging. I'm sure if you're not in the situation, you're not aware of it. But she gets off the bus at between 3:40 and 3:50 every day. Hemlock dismisses around 3 o'clock. She's 6 years old. There's also, we're the second to last stop. There's also a 4-year-old on her bus. They are not allowed to drink water on the bus. So they're sitting on a bus for 45 minutes, which I understand if the water bottles can go flying, but it's pretty hot. Often we're the second to last stop. Someone is sleeping on the bus. These kids, the other boy at our bus stop is 4 years old. They were running off the bus the other day. He's peeing in the bushes. She's running home. It's just not a great way to end the day, honestly. And the fact that my son is at Stratford, I've thought about obviously trying to make them both walkers, but it's geographically pretty far. I mean, as the crow flies, you could get there, but I've done the drop off at Stratford in the morning and then gone to Hemlock, and it's 18 minutes. And that's if you're making decent time. So just something to think about and potentially evaluate in the future. Those of us who are on those last couple blocks from Kensington to St. Paul's and have to go all the way to Hemlock, because it's a little bit spread out and geographically far from Hemlock, it's a challenge from the kids. And a lot of people on our route do pick up in the afternoon. I just don't have that luxury because I have a son at Stratford, and it's just impossible for me to get there and then go get my daughter, and his bus drops off at 3:06 and he's only in 3rd grade, so can't be dismissed by himself yet. But anyway, so it makes some of our lives very, very challenging, and the kids come off this bus exhausted at 3:45. The first week of school was 4 o'clock. So it's just a really, really long day when you're 4, 5, 6 years old after sitting at school for 7 hours. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah Hogan. I live on Kenwood Road. I have a 7th grader and a 5th grader. I came to the last work session hopeful that some of our feedback would be heard and that there would be some changes made this year on class size. But tonight I'm feeling a little disappointed. I wonder how many of us have been in a room with 10, 12-year-olds by ourselves. How about 20? How about 33? And then add the fact that you have to teach them science and math. I'm disappointed because I heard a lot of things about what we thought about doing but didn't do. I also heard about test scores and that those will tell us if this is working. As a teacher, I argue that whatever those test scores are, they could be better if class sizes were reasonable. I would also argue that test scores don't measure a lot of the qualities that the video about Garden City talked about. Do test scores measure our children's ability to innovate, collaborate, problem solve? I challenge you, Board of Education members, go to the middle school, go into a 7th grade class that has 33 children in a small room. Please, honestly, ask yourself, is this environment conducive to learning? Also, ask yourself, does this meet the standards of the Garden City community? I heard in the video that every student has the opportunity to meet their potential. That's a quote. I wonder if students in classes of 33 students really have the opportunity to meet their own potential.
Good evening, Suzanne Hess. I also have a 7th grader. I was also here with Sarah last week or 2 weeks ago. I thank you, Mr. Samuelson, for your really great brief and all the data that you had collected for us. And I do understand last time we heard about the TAs being added to the English classes. I just was wondering why the English classes were picked and not the math and science classes. And if possible, is there any option for potentially getting TAs? And I have to also say that I'm really happy to hear that the TAs are teachers, certified teachers. If there's a possibility of having even like one floating TA for math and one for science, or some extra help as well in the math and science rooms as well.
Sure. I mean, that's something that Mr. Samuelson has talked about in terms of, I think he shared that earlier, that it's not just for English, it'll be for the other areas as well. And if we
Thank-
need more support, we will be. I know we've talked about adding another section of math support because that was something that came from the meetings that we had.
Thank
So-
you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Deborah Donahue. I'm on Kilburn Road. I have an 8th grader, a 6th grader, and a 3rd grader. My question is about our math program, the current math program, because this is now my 3rd child going through the elementary school, and this is the 3rd math program that we're learning. And it's hard for me to keep up, and I am fully unimpressed with the illustrative math. It started in second. She was in an actually, she is not a special education student, but she was in an ICT class last year, and she had multiple worksheets come home with errors. I have a couple of the examples, like different word problems that didn't make any sense, that you couldn't even answer the question. And I'm like, if she is coming to me and saying that this is a problem, what is the special education student that's next to her that has dyslexia, that isn't at reading level, that's trying to do this math? And I spoke to the classroom teachers, and I was assured that she was doing fine. That was not my concern. My concern was the program itself and the other students. This went through the principal, and then finally I spoke with Ms. Cardella in the winter, and I was told that it had something to do with the repository that the teachers use and that they were working on correcting these sheets, which I don't understand because each sheet has the logo of the illustrative math at the top. So I'm not sure why we're either shifting blame to the teachers, or if it is the teachers that aren't double checking things that they're sending home, then that's a problem too. She's now in 3rd grade, and we're now on the 2nd worksheet that she's gotten. It's the middle of October. That is wrong, that there's errors on it. And I don't know where to go at this point. I've tried the bottom up, so now I'm kind of coming to the top, and maybe top down, something can be done, because it doesn't seem like this program was vetted very well. It seems like it's a new program. It seems like I don't even know what the problems are. I don't have an education background, so I'm sorry. I'm coming at this as a parent and as somebody that's totally confused by why we're rolling things out that my daughter can't do her homework. I mean, she's sending things back. Even today, she had classwork that, was them trying to do areas of a rectangle, and it was 4 different areas that you had to figure out and then circle the one that was the area of 12. None of them had an area of 12. And the teacher was like, oh, well, I guess this is wrong. How? I don't understand. It shouldn't be trick questions. And it's not. It just seems like it's a bad program.
We'll reach out to you because I want to get some more specific information from you. Either myself or Dr. Bowman will be in touch
Yeah,
with
I mean,
you.
Dr. Bowman was my next place, but I was like, oh, there's a board meeting and I have another sheet. I'll just go and bring it to everybody's attention.
We'll be in touch with you.
Good evening. I'm Lauren Hooper on Whitehall. I have 3 children. 2 are in the district and 1 will be in a few years. I was part of the Anxious Generation discussion we just had, and also the PTA all-school meeting. It was very informative regarding the use of technology, and Lauren McGuire did an excellent job shedding light on her view of tech in the classroom and its evolving. It was really wonderful to hear about the changes that have already been made and the call for action to reduce the use of technology such as Chromebooks in the classroom and iPads. My question this evening are what measures are being taken to ensure this information is being trickled down specifically to the primary schools and elementary school administrators and teachers. As we discussed on these calls was to enhance socialization as much as possible for these young children and reduce the screen time, especially during a time when they should be playing. And specifically, I have been hearing that the iPads are still as a choice for free play, especially in 1st grade, sometimes during snack watching shows. So I'm just wanted to find out when this information is going to be, communicated to everyone, that the teachers are aware, and how we can reduce that and have them play or just socialize as kids should.
So in terms of, I'll address this question briefly, is that, the all the elementary administrators, they've been on the call with us, right? So they're very well aware. We have discussed this. And there is, we've made a concerted effort to minimize that, particularly K through 5.
So my question specifically is actually over in the, more so in the primary schools. I know they do use their iPads. So for free play on Fridays, they have an option to either do like building with Lincoln Logs or Legos or arts and crafts, but iPad is still a choice. So I know my son will gravitate towards the iPad. I would prefer for him to be playing and socializing with, his peers instead of using that time for being on a screen.
So, I don't know which building this is. Have you spoken to the building principal?
Not yet, no.
Yeah, I would encourage you to, or let us know what specific building it is. We have 3 primary schools, but that is something we are, we want to minimize the use in that way.
Right.
So,
Will there be discussions though? My question is, with the administrators to talk
Sure.
about this in the primary level?
yeah, they're aware of it. Absolutely. Yes, we've discussed this topic, more than once. So, but I don't know, like I said, I need to know more specifics, which building, and then we can address that.
Okay, this is specifically for Hemlock.
Hemlock. Okay.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Vicky Bucci, Primrose Court. Thank you, Mr. Samuelson, for the overview of the class size situation. I have 3 students in district, 3rd, 5th, and 7th. It's a little disheartening to hear some of the lack of solutions, short-term solutions in terms of like what we're doing to problem solve. I'm an educator working in a district close by, working in a middle school. And, some of the comments from my administrators, colleagues, just when I share some of the class sizes with them are, they're appalled that they can't, they ask, of course, what district I live in. And then I say, Garden City, and they're pretty shocked to hear that this district has those numbers. Aside from, work and things like that, my daughter comes home and has said to me very recently that in, her English class, which is 34, 35 students, she's pretty sure her teacher doesn't really remember her name. While that may be a bit of an exaggeration, it's frustrating as a parent knowing that, I came to move to a district that I never thought I'd be in this situation where my students are in public school and their sizes are ranging from 30 to 35 students. So I wanted to know if there was a specific timeline in terms of moving forward. That I understand it's sounding like that, there's no specific this year. There's nothing really more to be done is what I'm hearing in terms of reducing other than the TA situation and maybe moving around those TAs. I'm hearing that there's really no other short-term solutions for the remainder of this year. But I wanted to know going back to the timeline for the scheduling, like where do we have a plan? Is there a rollout for that? And when would the community know about those? When would we have those answers for next year?
So with the scheduling process.
And potential other solutions like new hires and things like that.
Yeah, so, as the scheduling process is moving along and the, discussions, Mr. Samuelson will be communicating that to our middle school families, and we'll have a formal presentation at the Board of Education meeting as well.
So there's no specific, like it's not March, April, or, before the
Well,
budget?
it needs to be done, like
Before-
our goal is to have this done by December because you're planning for the budget for the
Yes.
next year. So there is a timeline for this
Okay.
to be completed.
And then my only other concern was that one of my other students, one of my other kids is in 5th grade, and their class size at Stewart is they're big. I mean, there are 8 sections at Stewart currently. So what are we doing in preparing them? I mean, am I gonna be going through this again in a year or 2 for my son who's currently in 5th grade? My 3rd grader doesn't have the same issue. That's a smaller cohort. But we know that there's 8 sections at Stewart. I'm not certain what's going on at Stratford right now, but you clearly have those enrollment numbers. And what can we do to prepare for that class to anticipate it. And I know it's a different sixth grade is a different certification than 7-8. So I understand that, working in a middle school, but what can we do? And when can we have feedback? When can we know about what's going to be done for that cohort?
So as, Mr. Samuelson said earlier, with the scheduling, a big focus of it is class size with the master scheduling and with the work that we are doing. And remember, like during the budget timeframe, that's when we discuss staffing, and we'll talk very openly about sections at that time.
I'm hopeful that we can all come together and do better for our students. Thank you.
There are no other questions or comments. Appreciate everybody coming up and sharing their thoughts. At this time, we're going to move to a consent agenda, which allows for one motion to approve multiple items on the agenda. I will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda. We'll ask board members if they wish to have a discussion or clarification on any specific items within the agenda. Following the discussion, the board will then vote on the agenda. Does anybody wish to have any items pulled out? Okay, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes business of the board items H1 through H5, personnel matters I1 through I6, business office matters J1 through J31, and special education matter items K1 through K7.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Is there any new business from the board? No? Any new business from the administration? Not at this time. Future Board of Education meeting announcements. There'll be one Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. It's a work session at 8:15. And then there'll be one Monday, November 25th, 2024, regular session at 8:15. At this time, may I have a motion that there being no further business to come before the board, that the meeting be adjourned?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye.